I can see an innate desire, sword in hand, warriors side by side. I can feel it, it burns like fire. Worlds collide, an unstable landscape, side by side. But that's what this mandates. Be it might, and unlikely allegiance. We will fight because that's the best defense. No turning back, for such is our path. Is clear as we ride against a dark empire. By my soul, may the last thing they hear be the roar of this raging fire. Disobey the savagery mindset. Not today, we'll let loose and find it. Brutal will define our reaction. Rip out the throat of each one in their fashion. No turning back, for such is our path. This day we find the glorious death. Fear not, my friend, for right is the path. They shall remember glorious death. Are beaten and broken down. I shed not a tear. After all, this is why we are here. A war we were not supposed to win. If I'm to die tonight, I'll kill every demon that stands in my spine. Go!
Boom. And we're live. So this is Braxcast live once again. A little bit different, although it might be the same thing next week, probably, where I'll stream at a different time than I usually do. Maybe it might just be like, maybe I'll just do like an 8:30 stream on Friday. But yeah, I'm finding that the Friday night stream time doesn't work the best because I've said this. People like to do stuff on Friday nights, and I'm not the same loner that I used to be. So we got Ram in the chat. Nice to see you. Hopefully you're having a good day. Yeah. So this week's episode of Braxcast was a little bit of a disaster because I'm using OES to record now instead of just filming it on the table, like physically. So that way I don't have to like print anything out and I can just look at all the covers. Although there weren't any books this week, but still, it's nice to just have all of it in a browser and just go through it. I find that to be actually a better format. But when I hit start streaming instead of start recording, so it streamed the video to Twitter, and I didn't realize this until like hours later. So I just downloaded it from Twitter. I just uploaded it at like 9 or something like that to all the platforms. So I'm not even sure anyone really commented on that, but I think it got most of the views that he usually did, and I don't get too much engagement these days. So I think everybody was fine with it. But still, if you watch that, you're like, why did I like do the countdown? There's no outro like there usually is. Although I doubt most people even watch that far. It's because that's why. It's because that's why. But so hopefully I will not make that same mistake next week. And I mean, we'll see what is even going to be going on in the Rippaverse. Although it got Smuggler's Stitch. I haven't read it yet, but I need to read that. And I've read all the other books. I just haven't gotten my lazy butt to record the reviews and actually start putting, as I said, it's like 2 weeks ago. I said, oh, it'll be coming out over the next couple of days. I've just been very, very lazy. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. Anyways, you have this Yaira animation, so I'm just gonna play this. Chef's kiss. I mean, Rip has talked a lot about Rippaverse video games, and these basically are taking the form of like, yeah, these would be like fight intros, like fighter intros. But these are, I mean, I would really love a fighting game in this style. So, we can think of, hey, we've got the Avatar Legends fighting game, which I didn't buy it, and I'm not a fighting game person, but I mean, on the Steam reviews, it's doing well. You see, well, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but it says very positive. But the whole, actually, I don't need to play the audio. But basically, I mean, you just look at the you're looking at the basic gameplay here, all right? And it looks very similar. We can go, like you see, this is there, and then boom, it's a very similar style. So, of course, published by Paramount Games, Gameplay Group International. I'm not sure what they've even done. I was searching this up, but it does seem it made some. I don't know why I'm getting so curious about this. But anyways, this is like a $30 fighting game. I genuinely think that there's like a lot of like good things going for this game. Although I think there was this like relationship between like Korra and Azula. I mean, all of these interactions are going to be non-canon, so it doesn't really matter. But it's still like it's quite odd, right, that they would have something like that. So I'm not sure, like, in terms of the story and other such things, like it's quite odd, but whatever. But it is like the style that, like, in terms of like, yeah, this is like the kind of fidelity that you would want a reverse fighting game to be, and I think it actually would do really well, just based off like looking up something like this. And of course, you could have one where like you wouldn't have to deal with the writing being a bit boneheaded. But anyways, it's not necessarily the biggest thing because we've got that's the second short, but I'd say the biggest thing is is the Rippaverse Codex. So we'll go into this video right here.
We've done our document cards. We've done character cards that come with pre-orders, but we've never done an actual set. And that's what you all keep asking for. Now, we're not quite ready for a trading card game. That's a different animal. and we'll get there. But collector cards, that we can do. So here it is, Rippaverse Codex Series number 1. Our first ever card set, 100 base cards. We got 44 inserts, 4 parallel tiers, the rarest numbered to 10. On card autographs. We got hand-drawn sketch cards that exist exactly once, and 50 collector vaults, each with a real printing plate pulled off the press that printed the sets. Every single product is capped. Every cap is published. We want to be transparent. Single print run, there's not going to be any reprints. Just over 30 days this collection will run, then it's done. So go grab yours right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty basic. So that's all the information that is in, like, we look at the Rippaverse Codex Series 1. We got Rippa HQ in the chat and join the Yaira animation, super hyped for the card sets. So, I mean, this is doing numbers, right? $63,000 in sales so far. So, like, I'm not the biggest card collecting guy. Now, the thing about, card collection is that people buy the cards just to collect them. So, like, I know some people who like Pokemon cards and, like, they just like to own the cards. They don't necessarily even play the game. Yeah, I'm not a collector guy. Just grab the free pack. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't have an income, so it's like I cannot justify like spending that kind of money. I mean, I could, right? But I'd rather not, right? If like I'm living off of savings, like I'd rather spend the $35 on gas and food than on cards. Although, but I would like to get maybe like a blaster box, or definitely not like the hobby box or anything like that, but like just getting like a blaster box, basically getting like 5 like packs of these. Of course, like you got the collector, the series collector's vault, where you'll just get like everything: sketch cards, autographed, the printing plates. Like if money wasn't an object for me, then that's what I would get. I would get this, but there really isn't any need to get this other than like if you're like a super hardcore collector. But I can't envision this being something like being able to sell these cards that much later for that much more money. I mean, maybe like I'd say probably 10 years down the line, if the Rippaverse is on the trajectory, you could probably sell a couple of those cards. You could actually make like basically like 2 or 3 of those sketch plates, and you could actually make back that 2,500. But yeah, you've got the complete base set guarantee. Basically 2 printing presses. I mean, you've got a metal card set. There's a lot of cool stuff here. Of course, you get a checklist poster, the collect stuff. I mean, a series 1, a binder, which is like a really cool thing. So you've got, of course, it's over there. I've showed it off before. The Dokemon binder is really high quality. So this is one that I would really hope that they keep. Like Rippaverse Codex. And I think that's a good name. And, if they're, doing this, then they're probably, well, not probably, but, I think would be a good name, to turn this into a CCG. I know that, explicitly saying, hey, we're not doing a collectible card game. But I think the demand is there, Eric. Like if you're watching this, doubt he is, but if you are watching this, the demand is there at $63,000 in sales in just a couple of days. The demand is there, and you would really want to capitalize on that because I said this in the episode of Braxcast, which I kind of flubbed. But anyways, I'll reiterate it here. It's a really good way to make a video game and then to also make a physical game with the CCG, because making the art for the cards, that's like most of the visual work for the game, and the animations are extremely simple. The development is extremely simple. Now, is it like super easy? Like no, because you still have to there's still coding, there's still development work, but that's going to be a lot less of a like it's going to be a lot more simplistic than making like a full free environment or doing, you know, a fighting game where you have to have like hitboxes and proper timing and all those sorts of things, and like more complex animations. And you especially if you want to go and try and do online play with a fighting game, of course, like, you know, with a CCG, you know, that's going to still be a bit complicated. But, you know, especially if you're doing peer to peer, which, you know, for a turn-based card game, you don't really need to worry about like lag time. Like, you know, you can't really like lag somebody out on a CCG, so it doesn't really matter in a turn-based game. If you can like lag switch or something like that, where like this is like back in the day where I remember on 360 people would make these devices and you basically turn it off and then you'd be able to do stuff and then you turn it back on. So way like to hack the game. That's not something you have to worry about. So like doing peer-to-peer, which is like the cheapest way to do an online game, you could very feasibly do for the Rippaverse, right? Or for a Rippaverse CCG. And then of course you have the physical game alongside of that. I believe that was what Student of God was saying. So I can actually pull that up here. Oh, we got Merc Lounge in the chat. Hopefully you are doing well. But yeah, I just want to get this. The Student of God sent me. Well, he sent me something else about but it's which I'm not even going to mention. But you can go to Student of God's page because I kind of want to. I don't think it would matter, but like I don't know, because it's more sad than funny, but it's still a bit funny to me. Basically, Rippaverse news. Anyways, actually, and no, there we go. Ooh, here we go. So it's basically Rippaverse news, adding new revenue streams. Yeah, moving forward in the trading card business, this campaign seems more like a trial run for what's to come, an actual card game for fans. And then basically just making this video about.
And right here, things first, you're going to need a deck. And right here, I have a deck. A deck consists of 50 cards minimum and 60 cards maximum. Once you have constructed a deck, you make sure that you build your deck revolving around the leader. A leader has a front side and a back side. The leader is what dictates what your deck.
Revenue stream is just like another way to make money. So revenue is like money coming in, and that's before in a business. I'm not sure like if you don't know that, but like revenue is very simple. But like that's the first thing. So like if somebody gives me $100, then like my revenue is $100. But if it costs me $50 to make the goods I sold you, then my profit is $50. You're like, okay, oh no, well, now I was thinking about streaming like on the internet, like a revenue stream. yeah, okay. So there we go. I don't need to do the business 101 talk, right? But anyways, I don't think I need to go into this whole video here, but basically saying that there are, like a Dragon Ball card game where you can have a leader, and you can have the card game revolving around the leader instead of it being something like Magic or Pokemon where it's like more team based. I don't really have a good like understanding. I bought like one pack of Magic cards back in 2015, and I never played Magic with anybody. It was like Magic Origins, and I had like a poster. I just put it over like some stickers I had in my room to make it seem a little bit more like the room of a teenager instead of the room of like a kindergartner. But anyways, that's where my experience with CCGs like starts and ends. I never really played it physically with anybody in person. Like I saw people playing it, when I was at camp, but it's never my thing. So I don't, and I played a little bit of Hearthstone. I like Hearthstone. Hearthstone's a good game. At least it was good fun. So, and something like Hearthstone, like you compare like Hearthstone to World of Warcraft, Hearthstone's a much more simplistic game. I think it was a game that was just developed as like a side project because they loved playing, CCGs, the Blizzard team, and then they just made Hearthstone as basically an offshoot of the World of Warcraft lore or whatever. And of course, it's flashier than other. I think like there's a Magic one, and it's like flashier. It's like pretty Blizzard is, at least at some point, were known for their polish. So like Hearthstone's got a lot of flair and everything, and I do like that. And you don't necessarily need that for like a CCG, like online. Of course, you can start with something that's like MVP, most valuable player, but it also stands for minimum viable product. And this is a term in tech, getting the minimum viable product and then updating it. This is a very unfortunate thing with game development where they get a base version of the game that works just well enough where they can justify selling it. And then, they have here's our roadmap where like at the end of the roadmap, it'll be the game that we promised it would be. And then of course, instead of it being 6 months, it's like 2 years, and it's not the game that you paid for, right? I mean, No Man's Sky is like probably the one game that launched completely broken, and was at launch. It actually improved significantly enough over time where people actually thought it was a game worth playing, and all the updates were free. Very, very rare. Most of the time, they ship out the MVP. And then they just do basically nothing. Or it could be something like Battlefield 6 where you actually remove game modes. So a lot of concerning things with the game industry. But all I'm saying is that you could get a Rippaverse CCG that's very basic. That doesn't have any flashing animations or stuff like that, but actually works and is fun to play. And then it just improves over time with more animations and of course more cards and spoofer gameplay in terms of just, I don't know, making it a better user experience. I'm not exactly sure the ways, with CCGs, but you catch my drift, right? So basically putting something that is the minimal viable product and then actually improving it. But the MVP is actually good. It's just not as polished as it could be, right? That's, I think, what they ought to really do. But a trading card game is that takes a lot more thought than just getting 150 or so pieces of art, formatting them into trading cards, getting those printed up, and packaged and then distributed. Then you have to think about the rules and updating it and making it entertaining and all those sorts of things. So there is much more thought that has to be put into it. And I do think this is a way of saying, hey, is that work even worth doing? Right. And as I'm going to say, if you're going to make $63,000 off of doing this, and you're most likely going to make somewhere around six figures, if not six figures, when this is all said and done, probably is going to be worth it. That's what I would say. But I'm not at the end of the day the guy to do the math on saying hey, is that worth it? It's going to be Eric and his team. But I think it would be. But anyways, we're going to move on to the holiday box set. So this is definitely selling a lot less. 25 box sets sold, $8,500 in sales. But these are books that have already come out. So this is something for the pretty hard, people who want to be collectors. And I imagine of the market of collectors, most people already have these books. So it's not the most enticing thing to sell these. And this is running for over 2 months. So this is going to be running until, it's going to release on December 8th. So this is definitely something for Christmas. So I imagine people are probably going to wait a little bit longer, probably to the tail end of this to, buy these up as Christmas gifts. But I do really like these. So you're getting a Rippaverse starting 6-box set. You're getting the Isom box set, Rippaverse Horror box set, Blood and Ice, the Yaira and Bloodroof box set, the Chuck Dixon Rippaverse box set, and the Rippaverse Trinity box set. And you do have basically the ability to buy all these slipcases separately, which is the most appealing thing for me, considering I literally own all of these books and all of these covers. But you do have the vault editions where there'll be like special autographed ones. I'm not sure if they are autographed. I could be like uh telling on myself there, but basically they'll be um like from the vault. So like, you got A, B, and C covers that are, not in that you can't buy from the store of these books, but you will be able to get these as part of the box set because they do keep a good bit of these aside, and to distribute at cons and such. But they're distributing as part of these box sets, slip cases as a special effect. Of course, some people would say, "Oh, you can't do that," yada yada. But most, stuff like that's really cool. And I definitely like these like exclusive covers being available to people in like creative ways. So I am 100% for this, and I think these are cool. And I do think it's cool that these are being sold to people 100%. Like you can buy these slipcases separately. Now, am I necessarily? I mean, this is a very nice drawing right here for at least two reasons. This is the Chuck Dixon box set, Alpha Core, Zalen, and Horseman. I do absolutely love these. Now, I would probably want to buy at least one of these and just see like what these are, like, because I have the Cyber Frog magnetic store folio, and that's like a hard case, and it's made really well. I mean, you can say what you want about all caps comics. The slipcase, the hardcover, the magnetic store folio is actually really well made, and it's something I had said. I think Student of God had said like they should make something like this, and I brought this out. I was like, yeah, this is like actually something they should do, and I do like stuff like this, and the fact that this stuff like this can be bought separately, I think is really good. But I do think I would probably want to buy one of these and say, hey, if I think it's like high quality enough, then they should have like one of these basically as like an evergreen product. You could make like just like a standard reverse one. You can make like a Yaira one. You can make like like them in a couple of designs and just keep them as something that's sold as an evergreen product. But I think I am kind of hoping this is like the magnetic store folio where like it's hard, like it's a hard cover. You open it up, like it has like some sort of like magnetic like way to clip it, so that way it stays closed. It's like hard, like you can like tap it, and it's like it's a solid built piece that can store the books. Instead of like it being like a flimsy piece of cardboard, which it might be, who knows. But I would like to buy one of these, considering it's 29 to 39 bucks. It might be on that like cheaper end in terms of production, but it's something that I definitely would be interested in buying just to review it and give my take on it. Anyways, we're going to the last thing, and this is all stuff that I have covered on the episode, but basically just I like doing the live stream. Can I be here we go. But anyways, this is the art of the Rippaverse, so I guess we can play this video right here, and they'll let, I think.
What's up, everybody? Really quick here. We are doing our first ever hardcover art book. We've done the art of Joe Bennett and the art of Kanan White, which has just featured the line art of those individual artists with some commentary. But now we're doing an official massive 200-page art book called The Art of the Rippaverse Volume 1. Now, you've seen our regular books, even some of our hardcovers, which are about this size, and you've seen the definitive Yaira and Isom, which is this size. However, this book is going to be even bigger than this. It's going to be a nice little addition to your collection. It's featuring artwork from Joe Bennett, Will Conrad, Kanan White, many others. So go check that out. We do have an early bird special, so if you get in on the first 48 hours, you can get it at a discount, and we also are limiting those quantities. So head over to rippaverse.com and grab the Art of the Rippaverse Volume 1.
Yeah, so I've reviewed all of the art books. So the pre-orders for this are closing September 25th, and you've got basically the standard edition and the DTC edition. So this is like a 200-page oversized hardcover. This is basically a callback to it's basically ISM #1's cover, with like some like line work. We got John's long box in the chat, so um, if you want to, I will do. Actually, yeah. So yeah, John, if you're watching, I'm going to go and find. See, there we go. So I sent you the link on Twitter if you want to hop in and just say hey, you just want to have a chat. If not, that's perfectly okay. But since you're a friend of the channel, then I figured I'd give you a little chance to pop in and say hi. But you've got basically a regular old, like the regular edition, is featuring, get a free mini art print. Um, so I can't imagine this having like a lot of commentary. So like the value in this to me is more or less being like a coffee table book, and I'm kind of like coffee, a coffee table book. I'm walking in a New York minute. Yeah. I got to get my gabagool, a pound and a half sliced thin. Man. But I do genuinely like stuff like this, even though I'm probably not going to buy this. But I imagine this is going to be very high quality. So this is the DTC. Yeah, basically, it's going to be a little bit more than a gallery. You'll get full credits and context, the title, the issue, the artist behind it, what the piece actually was. And you can look things up in it. So you can actually use it as like an actual reference book, which is pretty cool. And the DTC edition is like $20 more. It's got a little bit more. So this is the one that you can go to like Barnes and Noble or Walmart and actually buy it, or you can get it off of Amazon through Hachette, which is cool. But this is definitely the one that I would get, since it's DTC, and just actually but it's stuff that like, hey, like it'd be cool to have, being like a super fan of the bookverse to like look through it and get reference for it. But since I have all of the art of the Rippaverse books, with Phil Conrad and Caden White, I think there was an art of Deborah. Was there an art of Deborah Carita? I feel like there would have been an art of Deborah Carita. Yeah, here we go. See, I was 100% correct. Yeah, this book exists. So, anyways, there's a whole bunch of these art of books. I've reviewed like literally every single one of them. All the concept art books. There's a concept art book for Norfolka. There was a concept art book for Saints and Sinners. There was one I think it was Merc Lounge that when he made a video of Saints and Sinners had a concept art book, and I reviewed that, and he used that as a reference. I believe it was Merc Lounge, if I'm getting that correctly. Which I was like, I was like really like, oh. So that's one of the reasons why I like doing the the art of book reviews, is because like people get value out of doing that. I don't think there would be the same value if I went through like even the DTC book for this, because I can't imagine there being that much information where like it's cool stuff, but like it'll probably be like this was drawn as like a commission for a poster, or this is like page 20 for Yaira #2, or whatever it is. It's rainy today. I'm feeling myself starting to come down with. I don't think I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel that good tomorrow, but we'll see. Hopefully not. is what it is. But like it's been like it's rainy all day, and it's like one of those days where like, ugh, I don't know, who knows. But anyways, I'm speculating on if I'm going to be sick or not. But anyways, that is like what we currently have for like the reverse. So there's no new books released. There's still, I think there's going to be more stuff fulfilling. So like I said, Smuggler's Stitch, I got that. I need to read it, and I need to like lock down getting my reviews out because people like them, and I'm not doing them. So it's really just a lose for me. But I have written a bunch of them. I just need to film them. So that's really what I ought to do. But unless anybody has anything to say, I know John popped in. I sent you the link on Twitter. I don't think I'm seeing you trying to join. Let's see. Yeah. I don't see, the only person in the studio. So I'm not seeing you trying to join, which, if you're busy, I understand. It's nice for you to pop in. And anyways, but yeah, I don't really have anything else to speak of. Well, I won't say that, but we got John. How are you doing, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So actually, I've got here we go. And then
Let me turn this light down. I was reading comics online, so there we go.
Yeah.
How's everything?
Oh, I'm doing well. I mean, I've been playing more games than reading comics. I was playing Fire Emblem last night.
What were you playing?
Fire Emblem. So it's a strategy game that Nintendo made. The first one came out for the NES in like the 90s, and it was in a lull for a long time, and then it kind of got revitalized back in like 2011 or so with Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS, and it's been pretty popular like since then. And they're making a new one, Fortune's Weave, and that's coming out next month. So I'm just playing through not technically the last one, but but anyways, that's what I was doing. And I beat Tears of the Kingdom because I had like slacked on doing that. So like more games because I'm more of a gamer than a comic book reader. But I need to read Smuggler's Stitch because that's the one with if you read Item number 1, at the very tail end of it, Isom goes to this like superhero. So if you think of like from Invincible, like Art, who makes the costumes for Omni-Man and Invincible and Kid Omni-Man. Cedric Gaucho is basically like analogous to that character. So Isom goes to that character, and then he's like at the beginning of Isom number 2. But he's getting his own book, and it's quite an interesting concept because I think he's like dealing with aliens because like a lot of his like stuff comes from like other worlds, which is like he says it in Isom number 1, and then it's like, oh, they're actually exploring the concept in a solo book, which was really cool. But that's one that I had speculated on like existing for a while. And then like they actually are doing it. So I think like Eric was like watching the Braxcast and it's like, we got to green light that book right now. But anyways, that's like, the thing with the thing in terms of like book releases for the Rippaverse. And I think we're getting Frost and Ruin. So there are some more books coming out this month, which is it's quite interesting. And then like we're on the like precipice of like starting to get the Exclave books. So Rippaverse is heading into its first big event with Exclave, where if you read Isom number 2, you have the Devlings. So you have like this Devling king, and they're basically going to wreak havoc on Forest Park. And the mainline Exclave books are going to be covering Isom, Bloodroof, and Gooding because they're like the characters that are talked about and focused on in Isom number 2 in relation to the Devlings. And then there will be a bunch of side books that chronicle what other characters are doing during the Exclave book, like Alpha Core Horseman. There will be Santuan, there will be Darren Fontano, there will be Catch and Kill. So a lot of characters that don't have their own series are basically getting their own mini-series with the Exclave event, which I've said is really cool because it really lets them test the waters on like, hey, is catch and kill like a cool game. I think John left. I was talking John's ear off about Rippaverse comics. I think he got tired of me, or he just fell off the stage, or he just had technical issues. Let's see. Let's see. I'm not sure if. Anyways, but when I get an opportunity to nerd out about the Rippaverse, I'm going to take it. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Did you you cut out there for a moment?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. So
I switched from private chat to comments, and boom, I got booted out.
yeah, I thought you got tired of me talking to your.
No, not at all. I popped in, but long story short, I went to turn on the light, and I turned off the computer. So while you were going, I wonder if John's going to come in. I'm sitting there waiting for my computer to reboot.
Yeah.
So I came in at the last second. So now I was setting up all my stuff, and then
it's all good, man.
I don't know what happened. I went to hit the button, and boom.
Yeah.
I realized I couldn't read the comments. I wanted to see if anybody was saying anything, and I got myself.
Yeah, no, I usually live stream like Friday night. That's the time. Although I've been like really slacking on doing it consistently, so people kind of like, I guess they're not feeling it for like a Sunday afternoon. And I'm a very small, I'm small pickings for YouTube. So
consistency is the king. I find.
Yeah, and I used to be a decent amount more consistent. I'm pretty consistent, with the weekly stuff, but I got to get more, content out. But I used to be like really consistent with live streaming. The issue is that like the time that I pick is a time that a lot of people like to do stuff. Like in terms of like, if I want to spend time with people like in the real world, like they like to hang, because that's what I was doing Friday night. I was with a buddy of mine. I was like, yeah, it's like more important to get out of the house and actually like socialize and to like maintain my like live stream schedule. Cause like I'm chronically online, but I don't want to be that chronically online where like my like life is subservient to my, live streaming schedule. So, definitely, I think might do like Friday a day next week. So I can do both where I can have a Friday night stream and I can have some, socialization with people in reality. But anyways, all that to say is that I was going on about the Exclave event for the Rippaverse, and that's the first big crossover event for the Rippaverse. Basically, it's covering 3 characters, Isom, Bloodroof, and Gooding, as they deal with the Devling King, which is basically picking up from Isom number 2. Because those are the 3 characters that revolve around the Exclave or the Devlings, and they're basically going to wreak havoc on Forest Park. And as that's happening, you get a bunch of side books. So we're getting Catch and Kill, which is a short story covering Winslow, Valiant, and Betty. I forget her last name. First name is Betty.
What exactly is the Exclave event for somebody who doesn't know?
If you read Isom number 2, there are these characters called Devlings. They're basically like these like demons from another world, and they're going to basically, what happens is that Isom busts his friend out of the captivity of these Devlings, and there's a massive destruction against the Devling horde in the end of Isom number 2, and you have this Devling King. I'm not sure if that's his name. We'll find out when we get Exclave, right? And he's basically vowing revenge against Isom and I guess humanity in general. So they're going to go and invade Forest Park and wreak havoc. And that's the Exclave event. That's the biggest thing, is that you have basically this otherworldly supernatural force invading Forest Park. And then all the characters of the Rippaverse, because most of them are in Forest Park or around that area, are going to have to respond to this event. And the 3 characters that were dealing with the Devlings in Isom number 2 are Isom, Bloodroof, and Gooding. So Cato Gooding. He had Gooding the Polymath, which was by Mike Barrett and Will Conrad. Fantastic book. And you have Bloodroof, which is by the Saska sisters and Michael Montanet. who won a Rippaverse art contest, and that's how he got the gig to do Blood Roof. It's her ongoing series. And then, of course, Isom by Eric July and Cliff Richards with at first Gabe Elfay covering, and then it was Sebastian Chang, but that's not neither here nor there. But anyway, those were the three main characters that were involved with the Devlings when they appeared in Isom #2. So they're going to be the three main characters with the mainline Exclave book. So you'll have like Exclave 0. We've got 1, 2, and I believe 3 are all up for pre-order. Quote me on if there's a number 3. But I know Exclave 0, 1, and 2 are all available for pre-order guaranteed. And then there's a bunch of books that are taking place from the perspective of characters that are not part of that main free cast, which is Isom, Blood Roof, and Gooding. So we're getting Yaira, Santuan, Darren Fontano, Catch and Kill. So there's a side story. I believe it's in Ripazine number 4. You have Winslow Valiant and Betty. They're investigative reporters. So they're getting their own book. Darren Fontano, who's basically the antagonist of Isom of The Old Lies Dark, he's getting his own book. There's a Ron Kopp, which is covering Lillian Renashi and Michael Copper, what they're doing during the Exclave event. So it's a really cool way where a lot of characters that aren't, that don't have their own series or books, to get their own books, basically their own miniseries during the Exclave event. So like Santuan never had, his, own book, but he's getting a book now because of the Exclave event. And it will allow them to see like, hey, do people like a Santuan standalone book? And if they do, then they can do more. If not, then, is what it is. But it's going to be really cool, and it's going to dominate the Rippaverse for probably until it comes out for like until the first half of next year, from what I can surmise. And then after the Exclave event concludes, then you'll have the continuation of the mainline series. So like this is when we'll get Isom 4, and Blood Roof 4, and Alpha Core 4, and Horseman 4, because they're all stopped around number 3. So like once the Exclave event wraps up, the ongoing series will keep telling the story after the Exclave event. So it will be like a big thing. So we'll be reading like Horseman number 5, and Horseman will mention something. And it'll be like, if you want to know why, he mentioned that, read Alpha Core Horseman. Excellent. Yeah. Which,
Marvel,
yeah.
I don't know if they still do it, but the yearly events.
Yeah. With Marvel and DC. Yeah, no, I'm not the most familiar. I mean, I know they're annuals, but I mean, as far as I know, the big two have no interest in any sort of continuity. I mean, there is all of this lore that they've established and they're riding the coattails of, but I never really got into the comics, and it's so hard to hey, where do you actually start to get a knowledge of this lore? And it's it doesn't feel worth it to me when there's so many great indie books and so many other ways to entertain yourself.
Yeah, well, I stopped reading Marvel and DC in 2015. I'm a continuity freak. So once I started noticing that the new people, new editors, everything didn't know the main continuity, I started to get less and less interested.
Yeah, no, that's a big issue. And this is the biggest thing with the MCU is that all the people who make the MCU movies, they don't talk to each other. They're not allowed to talk to each other. They're not allowed to reference anything. So these are just basically movies made by committee. And
not only that, but now I think the MCU is doing a really bad thing. It's accepting all the other movies from other studios and taking their continuity and mushing them together, in what? Well, I'm trying to think. It's been 10, 15 years. The MCU is just as convoluted as 60 years of Marvel now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't kept up with it.
And all that stuff. It's just too much. They streamline.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it since after Endgame.
Right.
And even then, so I guess the MCU technically started about 18 years ago with like Iron Man and the Hulk, and I think everything up until the Avengers in 2012 are like actually pretty fun movies, but
Up until Endgame, everything was pretty good. The worst of them was Captain Marvel, and it wasn't that bad. It was the biggest crime with Captain Marvel is it was dull.
Yeah. I mean, a thing I kind of fell off of like watching a lot of them, but the thing is that people would criticize stuff like For the Dark World or Iron Man 3 as like, hey, like they're mediocre movies, they're not the best, but like after like Endgame, it's like when it became very explicitly about like, yeah, we're going to peddle the woke and stuff, we're going to peddle like, you know, the political stuff, like, you know, we're going to have like, you know, She-Hulk working with Megan Thee Stallion, and that's apparently you know, what comic book fans want, right? So that's why it became an explicit problem. So not only do you have that, then you have the fact that like you're trying to manage stuff like after the blip. They try to put Jonathan Majors like Kang the Conqueror, and then he had all of these like he had this massive domestic scandal, so they had to axe him. And then now they're
even that. I've always been, whether I agree with you politically or not, like the timing is always suspect. This guy signs $150 million multi-movie contract deal, and all of a sudden he's accused. And did he get arrested? What happened? You know what I mean?
I'm not exactly.
Nobody knows. I think it was dismissed. I think either he paid her off or she was looking for a payday. Yeah. And now this guy's got his career hijacked. I mean, first off, I was like, I don't like Kang. They race swapped him, but then he's in the movies. He's Kang, you know. And now all of these gears are are stopped because some girl wanted a payday.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like a very weird thing, but like Disney had to really, you know, pivot course and kind of insert Doom, and like Kevin Feige.
And now it's not Doom. Now it's Iron Man is not Doom. Tony Stark is. So to me, I'm not interested in Doomsday because it's not Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
it's like, oh look, Peter Parker is Galactus in the new movie. Well, that's not Galactus. You know what I mean? So Doctor Doom is Iron Man, who's not obsessed with Reed Richards. You know, so this isn't Doomsday. I don't know who this character is, and I'm not interested.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like, you know, it is quite. It's quite you know, they're going way off the comics. They didn't make any effort to really establish Doctor Doom. Like in the MCU, there was a good, you know, establishment of like Thanos as a character, like going back to like Guardians of the Galaxy. I believe there was like an end credits scene, because Marvel got really legendary for these, like putting these like little like teasers and Easter eggs of like, hey, what's going to happen. And then, like, yeah, when Thanos comes, like, oh, yeah, he's actually, like, teased. Although, you know, they didn't have, like, Adam Warlock. So, you know, there was, like, a lot of stuff where, like, yeah, they could have gone a lot better. They could have had much more continuity.
Yeah, they wasted Adam Warlock.
Yeah. And this thing is that I was a 10-year-old when I watched Iron Man, when that movie came out. And I lived walking distance within a comic book shop. And I find it so freaking stupid that, like, they could not get me to read Iron Man comic books. Like they did not have a way to get like somebody who had the Blu-ray of Iron Man to get into a comic book shop and say, hey, if you like watching this Iron Man movie, then read this comic book. And I would have been like an Iron Man lifer if like they had captured me at that time, but they just never did. And that is such a missed opportunity, because you could have had like a massive like generation of like fans who would have been fans of the comics and the MCU, like if they had put in the effort to actually link them up. But there really wasn't that. Because it was, you know, a bunch of suits saying like, hey, we greenlit like one movie, and then they just kept kind of like greenlighting them, where it's like, hey, we're going to keep making these movies, and we're going to try and make this continuity for however long we can. And then Disney buys it, and then basically it was just like I don't know, it's kind of just like inevitably going to become a train wreck, and it basically at that point is. And we got Garfield's Bizarre Adventure in the chat. So
hey, Garfield.
Yeah. So yeah, no, just
Garfield's causing chaos.
Yeah.
Garfield knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. You know, Garfield's basically a really, like, he's all around. Like, he knows.
Yeah, he's always in my he's always in on my videos.
He's in my chat. He's in he's always in the chat of like basically like any comic book streamer that isn't like a complete dingus to be around. He's there.
But Garfield knows what he did. It's
Yeah,
funny.
he knows what he did. I mean, tomorrow's Monday, so that's going to be his comeuppance, right?
It's funny.
Man. Yeah. Oh man, but I think the Garfield strips were like you get the Sunday paper, you read the funnies, and I liked Garfield, and I think the Lockhorns as well.
Lockhorns. It's funny. The Lockhorns. That I thought I was the only person in the world that remembered the Lockhorns. I love the Lockhorns.
Yeah, no, that it's like like they say they have this very dead look in their eyes, and all the passion's gone, but they still love each other, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of love I want, right?
But I miss what you're talking. For those of you who don't know it, in the newspapers they had newspaper comic strips. And then on Sundays, they had the Sunday Funnies, which was like a big section of like, I got the Daily News. So you pulled it out. It was almost like a comic book of cartoons and everything. And the Lockhorns were a daily strip. And it was just a husband and wife that fought each other all the time.
Yeah.
It was just like that husband and wife don't get along trope that, I don't know, it kind of bothers me now that I'm married. I'm like, can't we just have couples that get along? Which is one of the reasons why I made my comic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're talking about the patriarch.
Right.
Yeah, Heroic Tales. So yeah, no, I mean I do like I'm not sure. So the fact that like I forget the name of the wife, because of course you have the patriarch.
His wife is Marissa.
Yeah, Marissa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there's this game, and I can actually show it. So there's this. So 4chan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at one point, 4chan by committee, or not by committee, they made a visual novel called Katawa Shoujo, which translates into like I think it's like cute girls, but anyways, it's you're this high school student that has this heart condition, so you go to this school for basically disabled people, and one of like, and they're all like your love interests, right? And you have one of these girls, her name is Hanako, and she's a burn victim. So she was like in a house fire that like her parents died, and how like half of her face and like her body is basically scarred. Reminds me of Marissa from Heroic Tales. Now
she was burnt. I didn't tell that story yet. I'm
Yeah.
debating whether or not to tell that story in Patriarch 2 or 3.
Yeah. With backstories, I think they're all well and good, and they are necessary, but it's not always the most. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. And then we can. Oh no, I'm kind of like disastrous on like exit the solo layout. There we go. We're back there, but I just wanted to show that for reference. But yeah, Hanako is like it's a character that I instantly thought of, made by the hacker known as 4chan. And now I think there was like CIS Miami or whatever. And when I was a dumb teenager, I had this idea of like Red Channel, where it's like, oh, let me get Redditors and 4chan on like a subreddit, and I'll just call it Red Channel. So I made this it was like 12 years ago or so. And then they actually made they made all these like really dumb plot lines. They got like Logan Paul to be like a Gamergate gamer that was like assaulting women. Let's see. You got
Yeah,
that.
that's the Patriarch's wife. Yeah, I said, I didn't tell how she got burnt yet, but yes,
Yeah.
She was burnt pretty badly.
Yeah, but anyways, like one of these things was that like there were all these like gamers that were just like like terrorizing people, and they were like, "Oh, this was posted to Red Channel," and like they came up with this like really stupid name. So like what happened is that like I had made the subreddit Red Channel, and I one day noticed like all these people like saying, "Let people post to it," and then it started. So like it just became like a meme, and like but it was very short lived for a bit. But anyways, that was like reddit.com slash I can actually find it. So because I don't have access to the subreddit anymore as like a mod. But I did create it, which is like so freaking stupid. But like this was like the idea. Like I was going to just get like Redditors and 4chan on like one subreddit, which knowing like what 4chan is was such a stupid idea. But like this is I'm going to show the clip right here.
This link was just uploaded to Red Channel.
Well, congratulations! You got yourself caught!
But that's like someone memeing on it. But yeah, it was just uploaded to Red Channel. It's basically like the whole idea was like, oh, you know, this was like, because, you know, it's, you know, NCIS or whatever, one of these procedural shows. And, you know, it was like around 14, 15, like at the very beginning of like when stuff was going like woke. So they wanted to have this idea that like, you know, you had this like Gamergate, you know, people who are just like terrorizing women and children, and like you have to lock your doors at night because like the evil gamers are going to, you know, come and like you know, kidnap you and then upload the footage to Red Channel to threaten you. So this was like what was in the minds of these like, you know, Hollywood writers. And like but the thing is that like they had the ability to come up with names as well as like I was like, I don't know, 16 or 17 at the time. So like, you know, I'm not sure if that's I would consider that to be an L. But anyways, that was just thinking about, you know, 4chan. But anyways, you know, the whole thing is that keep that on topic is that the character that you know, your wife, the patriarch's wife, has, you know, these burn scars, which we do not know how it happened. Of course you do, but you know, that's a story for another day, if at all. But there was this, you know, visual novel that was made by 4chan, and they have like, there's a bunch of girls in this game that you can choose the romance. I always chose Hanako. I loved Hanako. She was just such a super sweet thing. And she has this very tragic backstory of her parents dying and like half of her body getting scarred. And I thought of that character right away. Now, I doubt you played that visual novel from 4chan back in the day.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I've ever. I heard about 4chan, but I've never visited. Or I really don't really understand what it is. I heard it's like a hacker website or something, or
no. I mean, 4chan was initially founded like around 2003 by this guy named like Moot, I believe. But anyways, it really is just like an image board where you don't make an account, you just post anonymously, and there are a bunch of like subboards.
And
so,
they
like,
did a bunch of pranks on people.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is that a lot of people will do. Like I got involved in one where like it was like you know, troll Reddit. And one thing was that so the subreddit R trees is for potheads, because you know, trees is a slang term for marijuana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the subreddit marijuana enthusiasts is actually the subreddit. Like if you see like a pine tree and you want to know what type of pine tree it is, you go to reddit.com/marijuana enthusiasts, and they'll actually talk about trees. But trees is the subreddit for potheads. Oh yeah, Shia LaBeouf beefs with 4chan. So yeah, like he had this thing where he had like a flag or something like that, and they found it when it was like, and he had put like this flag live stream like in a room with like supposed like no landmarks, and they were still able to find it. So like it's basically weaponizing. It's a bunch of autistic people.
It's 1,000 monkeys making Shakespeare.
No, it's not that. It's more like take like 1,000 guys with Asperger's who have nothing better to do than to pop Adderall and just make your life a living hell in the funniest ways possible. That's 4chan. That is the spirit of 4chan. But anyways, what I was involved in was that it was like go to our trees and post pictures of actual trees. So we went on to like trees. I would post like a stock image of like a regular tree and be like, oh, this tree got me at like a 10. Because this is what like the stoners would do is like they post a picture of like their joint or their bong and they say how high it was getting them. And I got banned from a bunch of like subreddits because like some other guys were like, this is a part of like a raid where like, you know, a bunch of the 4chaners would post like to a bunch of ones and they would go on the subreddit where you post cute things. They post like gore porn, right? I wasn't doing stuff like that. I was just like, you know, it was like lighthearted trolling. But since like I was identified as being like part of like, you know, that like, you know, infiltration from 4chan, like I got included on that like all ban list. But anyways, so like a lot of it is like, you know, some of it is a bit malicious, like in terms of like what they'll post. And I probably would say the like the glory days of 4chan, where it was like really entertaining, is probably behind us.
They're the ones who made people think that this was racist.
Yeah,
and that milk was a white supremacist symbol. You know, I know a lot of trolls that became
a lot of stuff like that. So like, or there's a lot of psyoping. But there's also the fact that I think there is like the fact that like there is like foreign influence with 4chan. I think with like the Israelis and stuff like that. So like if you look into it, if the fact that like 4chan was psyoping people into believing stuff like that, there was like ulterior motives from the, you know, powers that be. But that is way out of the purview of a live stream where I talk about comic books, right? You know, that's something where like you want to go on like Alex Jones or, you know, talk to Jay Dyer about like that, and not me. It's way out of my purview. But or something I don't know I could talk about. Might have talked about it on Hump Day Potpourri because I do a podcast on Wednesdays with an online buddy of mine who lives in Oregon, and we talk about stuff like this. And we might have talked about that because I think it was like in the Epstein files, like Pig 4chan was mentioned as like having influence. I think that's where it comes from, if you know, surprisingly enough. But Garfield is out of here.
Okay,
Garfield. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Garfield,
so, but, like,
I don't know if you know like Newscast, but people told me to watch Newscast because those guys were mentioning me in a positive way, and then it was all about Garfield. He caused like a 7-hour show. He knows what he did. I'm not about the drama, but so that's how I know about it because but they were like just watch. They're gonna mention you. So I was mentioned a few times. So
yeah, that's cool. You know, I haven't heard of Newscast, but anyways, that was the whole I guess my spiel on 4chan. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I guess to drive it home with talking about the Riververse, they're actually doing a set of cards. So I know you're a big into physical, you know, stuff,
right?
But we actually do have. I'm gonna add this back to the stage, and I can go and show. So yeah, actually got a Codex series. So
this is the cards, right?
Yeah, these are the cards.
I heard rumors that this is the first step in a playing card game.
Yeah, so there's no confirmation of that. So
yeah, that's why I said rumor. Yeah.
So rumor. So like we're all speculating that there are going to be, you know, card games, right?
Is that something you're interested in?
I would be interested in it. The thing is that what I would want is like a Steam game and the physical game as well. Especially, you know, for something like, you know, the Riververse is definitely a lot more niche than like, you know, Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. So, you know, it's not like I could just like walk out, you know, of my apartment and, you know, find like 10 people to play with me. So like it would be cool to have like an online game and the physical game as well. So I definitely would be interested in a Riververse CCG because it would be a way for them to get into like having a presence in you know, the video game like scene. But is that like the one and only? Is that like the video game I want to play? Like, no. Like, really, what I want for like a simple Rippaverse game would be something like Contra, where you play as horsemen.
Okay, yeah. So you want a fighting game, right?
No, not a fighting
Or an
game.
adventure.
Yeah, more like
Ice
an
up
action adventure.
running through Floral Spark, beating fools down, or something like that.
Yeah, that will a really cool thing to be would do. It's like, I'm not sure if you know the game Sifu.
No, I'm not a video game guy.
Yeah, well, anyway, there's a game that actually Eric's a fan of, and it's called Sifu. But I can show, like, we can show, Sifu.
My leg sweeper.
But anyways, just watching this guy.
Yeah, it's like playing a movie.
Yeah, in some ways. But anyways, this is the whole. Here's some, like, basically, like, it's a brawling game. I think if you had a Sifu game, where a game with the mechanics of Sifu where you play as Isom, that would actually, I would really love that.
Yeah.
I played a bit of Sifu, and I think it's actually a pretty tight game. And since Isom's a brawler type of character, it would actually work really, really well. But that's the thing. That's the big thing there. So you've got the rumblings of that. So, like, if they had a CCG and, like, it did really well, because this first this is just the trading cards, no game, it's Rippaverse Codex, and it's already made $60,000 in a couple of days, so it's doing well. I think there's a market for that. I certainly would want to play it and see, like, how they go about it, but, like, I'm not the biggest into trading card games or, like, physical games. So that's not like my, it's not my shtick, but it's something I would be interested in seeing
Why not?
how they go about it. But, like, that's that's one of there are a lot of games that I could say, like, yeah, I want, but, like, if I had, like, my wish list and I had, like, $200 million, I could just give it to Rippaverse Studios and tell them to make any game I want. I probably would want to make like an epic, like, 40-hour game where you play as Yaira, and it's like this very cinematic, action adventure game, like the new God of War games. That's the sort of game that I would love to see.
Yeah,
but that's a game that's like, that's a multi-million-dollar game, and it would cost them, like, like I said, like $200 million to make it.
It's unbelievable, the budget to video games these days.
Yeah. And the thing is that, like, you'll have hundreds of people and hundreds of millions of dollars making these games, and then they come out and they're complete broken pieces of garbage. And then meanwhile, the original Super Mario that came out on the NES was made by 8 people in like 6 months, and it's one of the greatest games ever made, 40 something years after it came out. So the gaming industry is in a completely, it's in a bad spot. So there definitely is going to be a crash, and it needs to.
Like I said, I'm not a gamer, so my advice is limited. But, like, all I see is, like, ugly women, and like they hire these beautiful women to be like the models for these characters. Then they get these, like, dump. It's like, guys, men want to look at beautiful women, and women players don't want to play as ugly women.
That's. I mean, it's the
step
same
one.
thing.
It's a fantasy. Make all the men Conan. Make all the women Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? Step one. Step two is, I don't know. I don't want to be preached to in a game either, or a comic book. Disagree with me all you want, but don't preach to me.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, is that, I mean, a lot of people are giving God of War Lofty a lot of flack because they've, because in the new God of War games, the first one came out in 2018. And I think it was 2022 when Ragnarok came out. And I didn't really play the original God of War games, but I like the new ones, the Norse saga, as they call it. And you have basically the whole idea of that game is, like, Kratos and his son are, they bury, or they spread the ashes of his wife Faye. And then you have Ragnarok, dealing with the aftermath of them doing that. But the God of War Lofty is dealing with basically what happens with Faye when she dies. She goes into the afterlife of the gods, and, a lot of saying like, "Oh, she's ugly. It's a girl boss." It's and some of it I think is like warranted in terms of criticism. Other things are like it might be like a fun game to play, but to market it as a God of War game when you're not playing as the God of War is a bit stupid. They could have called it like Lofty, a God of War story to like make it more digestible, but they don't want to do that. They want to say, hey, we're making a God of War game with a female
because
protagonist.
God of War is an established IP, and they want to leech off that IP.
Exactly.
Right.
And the thing is that like
they want to put their agenda characters, but they don't have faith in them.
Yeah.
Like
That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that like with this game, if they had gone that route, they would have gotten a lot more like they would have gotten a good positive response out of it, I think, if they had treated like that, saying, hey, we still have the mainline God of War games of Kratos, but we're doing this as a side project to expand on the story that we told with the two games in the Norse saga. And I think a lot of people would be for that. But like the progressive made by committee HR studios these days, they can't process like that. Their PR was a little bit better because like Sony and Santa Monica didn't come out and say all the people who were criticizing this were like misogynists or whatever. And I feel like if this was like even like 5 years ago, that would have been the case. But they've gotten a little bit smarter, just a little bit. I mean, Sony is still like they don't care. Like they're getting rid of physical games, in 2028, and they're basically telling everybody to kick rocks, which is very unpopular because most people are going to go along with it. Most people buy games digitally these days anyway. So, I mean, you don't really own your games anymore. So, the idea of like even buying like a PlayStation 6 is so unenticing when there really isn't a reason to buy a PlayStation 5 because like the game that like, yeah, sure, the one game I can really think of like, Death Stranding 2 and Stellar Blade, those games came out on PC. I have them on PS5, but they came out on PC anyway. So there really isn't any game that like, is like a system seller for it. And, with the way like Wolverine is looking, and, I played Spider-Man 2, and that's a fun game, but they have the same thing where like they make Spider-Man take a back seat in his own game to Miles Morales. And it's just super annoying when like in the 2018 Spider-Man, I think 2018 was probably like the last good year for Sony, because you had Spider-Man, you had God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out on Xbox as well, but it came out on PS4, and that's where I played it. So I say 2018 was probably like the last like really good year for Sony, and then like after that it was just I'd say it's downhill for them because like the entire like PS5 era, like sure people have been buying the PS5 and it's been doing decently well, but in terms of like exclusives to actually sell the system, like those have been very few and far between. But anyways, in the 2018 Spider-Man game, that had this like dynamic where like Peter was going to be this mentor to Miles Morales and actually show him the ropes, and you'd still be the protagonist. But they just threw that concept out.
Did you see the Spider-Verse movies?
I saw the first one, and
the first one I really liked, but then after a while I started to realize that they didn't have real Peter Parker. They had schlub Peter Parker, so the only way they ever elevate Miles Morales is by making Peter Parker, look bad. So that was like Peter J. Parker. That wasn't our Peter Parker, but we're going to elevate Miles Morales. Okay, so we're going to have an incompetent, goofy, over-the-hill Spider-Man because we can't compare Miles Morales to real Peter Parker. We have to compare Miles Morales to like slacker Peter Parker, an alternate,
Yeah.
So,
like
to me, that just shows that Miles Morales can't stand on his own.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You can only compete against an inferior straw man. Let John toke. I don't smoke Ezekiel, but thank you.
I think he wants me because I think he's saying let John talk because I've been dominating.
Oh, is it typo? No, I'm enjoying listening. I got nothing to say. This is your show. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. But anyways, the thing with Spider-Verse is like, it's a funny movie to see like divorced washed up dad Peter Parker like crying
Right,
in the shower, and it's like, but
yeah, but that's calculated because Miles Morales can't stand on his own.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I just remember seeing the first movie and like I like it. You know,
I liked it a lot actually.
Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch, and I love the animation style, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
It was to me it was the last great 2D animated movie that I saw. I'm sure there's some anime stuff that I don't know about, but that was excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's like a hybrid, and this is the thing is that it really put the animation industry on its toes. And this is like so weird that like the studio that made the Emoji movie, like kind of revolutionized the animation scene because like Pixar is making this movie called Gato. And it's basically taking after the Spider-Verse style, where like when Pixar was like back in the golden age when I was like really young, they put out hit after hit. They were the animation.
Right, they was on fire.
Yeah, like you watch like Toy Story 2 and like Cars and like
Incredibles is one of the best movies of all time.
Oh yeah, the Incredibles. I'd say the Incredibles is like the greatest superhero movie ever made is the Incredibles.
Yeah, I agree with you. The first one, the second one has lots of problems.
Yeah, no, the second one. I remember watching the second one. And I was really underwhelmed by it. But the thing is that I remember my sister not being able to emphasize with Mr. Incredible being sidelined, and it's like, but anyways, that I guess neither here nor there. But yeah, the second movie was like, because they fought, and it's like, well, the only interesting thing in the Incredibles universe is that superheroes are illegal, so we have to do that for the second movie. You can't have any development where like, hey, we're re-legalizing the supers, and then they're going to be the incredible fighting team as a family and dealing with that. They have to basically replay the second movie, and I've never rewatched it. But the first movie, I've rewatched it so many times, right? And
there's two things that were incredible about the Incredibles. Two things that made it interesting was that the superheroes were illegal, and it was about family. And the second movie, they still had kind of like superheroes or illegal kind of thing, but they kind of broke apart the family. In that first movie, Mr. Incredible was doing everything he could to keep the family together, and being a man and a father and everything. The second movie, he was being undermined. And then, if you notice, Elastigirl has a scene with that blue-haired freak, that girl. And that always bothered me. That should have been Violet. Like, they wanted to have a girl power moment. Okay, fine. They want to have a girl power moment. But there's a girl in the family. And she was kind of sidelined, hiding and shivering. And then this other girl that we didn't know anything about or cared about had this incredible scene with Elastigirl. That should have been Shrinking Violet and her mom. But at that point, it was like, 15 years later, the tide to turn? No, we can't let family be cool. That kind of ruined the movie for me. So I'm dreading the third movie.
Yeah, no, and there's this Pixar movie called The Good Dinosaur. I'm not sure if you've watched it, but I remember watching it, and I thought it was like an all right movie. But I remember the guy like before. I remember this very well. That I went to watch it with my family, and before the movie starts, the guy, the director Peter Son or whatever, has this whole spiel about, I come from an immigrant household and my mom didn't speak English. So I would have to go to the movie theater and I'd have to translate everything for her. But there were some scenes I didn't have to translate. And I hope this movie is like that for you. And then The Good Dinosaur plays. It's like, it's an underwhelming movie. Like, it's like a movie where like, I vaguely remember it, but I have no desire to rewatch it. Not like with like any movie, that Pixar made, between like, it's Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 3. Every movie that Pixar made from the first Toy Story movie to the third Toy Story movie are basically complete masterpieces. I mean, Cars, like, one of the reasons I was really young when Cars came out, and that's the reason why I like it so much. But even then, like, it's a nice, like, story on like the cost of fame, what the interstate highway system did to small town America. So like there's actual things you can take away from it. But like The Incredibles is like, yeah, this is like a story of like, you know, a guy trying to keep his family together. And
Right.
also it's also like, you know, you have this like really traditional dynamic, and that's one of the reasons why it works very well for adults, is because like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's accidentally the most based movie I've ever seen,
yeah.
which is why I think they had to undermine it in the sequel.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, but anyway, the guy who directed The Good Dinosaur, who like back in 2015 when that movie came out, started his movie with like a really like, you know, woke take, and he's the director for the first movie. So like, I have literally no faith that, like, I know that Incredibles 3 is going to come out and it's going to be a complete steaming pile of garbage, which I don't want it to be. Like, maybe I always say there's like,
Oh, I
like a,
love Incredibles.
yeah.
Yeah. At the time it came out, man, I went and got all the action figures, had them on my desk, you know what I mean? And I was an adult.
Yeah.
You know, but I was so desperate for a good Fantastic Four movie. Because Fantastic Four are my favorite comics of all time. And The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. Just like Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie ever made.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember there was the Fantastic Four movie that was made with like, what was it, Jessica Alba? Yeah. I remember liking that movie like as a kid, because there's the one scene where like she goes invisible and she's not wearing any clothes, and like, you know, as a young boy, like it makes you feel things. But you know, if I watch those movies, and I think like Silver Surfer, they're probably just like underwhelming movies, but I remember there being like there's a lot of like, because this was back in the day when like they made licensed games for movies, right? And they made a Fantastic Four game. I remember playing that, and they made like Incredibles games. I remember playing those. So that's
could you be all like, could you pick your character, or are you just Mr. Incredible?
Yeah, no, the one I played was on the DS, so I think it was just a side scroller. And I think you just played as Mr. Incredible, basically like going underground against the Underminer. That's what I remember. And then I think they made
basically a great name. Oh my god, the Underminer is such a great name.
Yeah.
You know, you've been on my channel, you've been to my house. You know, when it comes to superheroes, to me, the name is everything. If I can't get into the name, I can't get into the character. And man, the Underminer. When I saw that name in The Incredibles, I was so happy. That's like the perfect supervillain. You know everything about that character.
Yeah. You know, it's such a, and then the thing is that like in the second movie, instead of like trying to take over the world, he just robs a bank and then is basically never seen again. And it's like after 14 years, that's what it is. And then it's like, hey, we're just going to move on to like basically it being a girl boss movie about with the villain being some girl who felt betrayed by superheroes when like it was her dad's fault that he died anyways. It's so stupid. And it's like, this is like the sequel to basically the greatest superhero movie ever made. And
Brad Bird also did Iron Giant, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
You know, so like, and then a couple of people were criticizing him about the sequel, and he flipped out. I was like, what's going on with this guy? Because I love Iron Giant and I love The Incredibles, and I think he also did Ratatouille.
I'd have to search that up. I can search that up, but he might have done.
But I never saw Ratatouille because I can't stand that Patton Oswalt.
Oh yeah. I mean, Patton Oswalt is definitely a he's definitely if you're going to enjoy Ratatouille, you got to separate the art from the artist.
Right.
But yeah, no, Brad Bird did direct it, and he did write it. I'm looking at the but no, I remember watching that movie, and you know, it's a good movie. I like it. It's entertaining. So it falls in line with the quality of Pixar movies at that time. But I'd say probably of the, because there were like some, because you know, I went to church today and there were some like teenage girls talking about like, oh, we want to watch like Upper Ratatouille. I was like, they were talking to each, they weren't talking to me. You know, I wasn't like going to, you know, no, but they were talking amongst each other about like what of those two movies that they were going to watch. So that movie's cemented itself as being like a childhood favorite because of like the absurd plot. But it works, and the characters are likable, and it's a good movie. So Brad Bird like did good work. It's not as good as The Incredibles, but that is more of a commentary on like how well done of a movie The Incredibles is, rather than like Ratatouille being a bad movie.
And another thing about Incredibles is the message. If everybody's special, nobody's special.
Yeah.
Like I remember my jaw dropped when I heard that line. I was like, "How is this coming out in a Hollywood movie?" Which makes me think there's a lag, because by the time The Incredibles came out, for that line to be so shocking to me, already meant that like, oh, everybody's special. Everybody, we don't talk. Everybody contributes and merit. Everybody gets a merit trophy or whatever. That was already ingrained in society, which made me think that movie started to be made like 5 years earlier. You know what I mean? It was 5, and now I think like Incredibles 2. I think things started to course correct back by the time that came out. People were annoyed with that message. So I just wonder, Incredibles 3, like, is it going to be about trans rights or something like that? Like, it just seems like Brad Bird is just 5 years behind the times with this message.
Yeah. Well, Brad Bird isn't directing Incredibles 3, so.
Oh, he's not.
Yeah. So he's got like other commitments that he has. But the thing is that probably when, because the thing is that I think, when Incredibles came out in like 2004, they weren't bought out by Pixar yet. So they had a little bit more creative freedom. But by the time Incredibles 2 came out, Pixar was fully integrated into the Disney corporate monolith. And you're going to basically have to make concessions to what the suits want. So I think Brad Bird was limited in like what he could actually do with the script in the movie, because you'd have like the suits saying, "Oh, I don't like this. We're going to do it like this." And this is what happens basically even with Toy Story. But this is the thing where it's like, hey, they have legitimately bad ideas, and they're like, we don't like this. Do something else. And Toy Story somehow came out and was a good movie, and then the second movie came out, and somehow they made it into more than a direct-to-video movie, and that turned out to be an absolute masterpiece as well. But most of the times when the suits come in to the creatives and say, "I don't like this, change it," the changes are always worse. Yep. And I think that's what really hampered Incredibles 2, is that you had Disney really wanting this movie to be what they thought would sell, like, because it's an IP. When they put the movie out, they wanted to make $1 billion. And that's the most important thing, because there's no creative vision with like Bob Iger and those sorts of guys. They just want to make money. And that's the whole thing. Is the whole point of like.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I want to make money off my comic because I live in the real world, and if I don't make money off the comic, I don't get to make more comic. You want to make money off of the Incredibles because it's incredibly expensive, and then you get to make another one. I had a friend who complained. He goes, "Every time I do my job, I just get more work." I'm like, "That's the reward." He's like, "What are you talking about? A reward? More?" I'm like, "Think about it. You do your job, and then your job's done. You're out of work. If you're good at your job, the reward is more work. You get to continue to do it. That is the payoff. That's Incredibles. We make millions of dollars. I get to do it again. But the thing is, I don't think Disney's trying to make. I don't think their primary goal is making money anymore, because they know they're smart. They know how to make $1 billion movie. They make a superhero movie where Superman's not a wimp, where Lois Lane's not a shrew, and Lex Luthor's not, what's the word, a sympathetic villain, and just have Superman be ultimately good, do cool stuff, and beat the crap out of the bad guys. That you go, or Blade. How easy is it to make a cool Blade movie? You put a cool guy like Wesley Snipes. Maybe he's 70 years old and he can't do all those maneuvers anymore, but what's his name? Christopher Lee wasn't really Count Dooku in those fight scenes. So you got Wesley Snipes, you make him look cool, you kill MF and vampires for the whole movie, you barely need a plot, and it's $1 billion movie. You know what I mean? But they're not doing that because that is not their agenda to make money. Their agenda is the message, and that's
Yeah.
that's
So
what they got to do.
yeah,
These
the thing
people
is,
who are making these movies, the middle management guys, these guys are living comfortably enough that it's okay.
yeah, but I think the thing is that what they do is that the message is going to infiltrate basically every movie,
Right.
for the most part, except for like something like Spider-Man, because like Spider-Man, they put out a Spider-Man movie, and then it can fund the next like 5 to 10 flops, and then they just like every once in a while they'll put out a movie that is actually well made and does good. Even though like I'm not willing to sign on that like Spider-Man like doesn't peddle in the message, because I only watched Homecoming, and they still race swap Mary Jane for Zendaya, and it's like
And Ned Leeds is this most unattractive person I've ever seen in a movie. Jeez, that no offense to that guy, he seems nice, but Ned Leeds in the comic book was like an active shield agent. You know what I mean? And a tough guy, not some fat guy that you would steal your French fries from you at lunchtime.
are you
I don't
talking
know.
about the Ned Lees?
Yeah, Ned is his. He's the fat Hawaiian guy. Now he's a mystic. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like his friend, like yeah,
That's Ned.
uh,
In the comic books,
yeah,
Ned Lead married Betty Brant, and he was like a cool secret agent kind of guy. Not
yeah,
not a
not
pumpkin
like
look-
not like your average MMO player.
right. It's like, dude, put a shirt on.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's the thing is that like, but there's like enough of it where there's not enough of it where it doesn't like allow them from making like bank. So Spider-Man, makes bank for
Right.
Disney and Sony, and it funds a lot of their complete failures, which that
Which
I think
thought, in Spider-Man, I thought was funny is Flash Thompson is the bully. He's the jerk, and they had a good-looking red-headed white guy in the comic books playing Flash Thompson, and then they got like this awful-looking Indian guy playing the bully. You know what I mean? Here's their chance to make a white guy the bad guy, and they muffed it.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I only watched Homecoming of the new Spider-Man movies, and I watched the first, the one with Tobey Maguire,
Right.
Spider-Man one, and I mean I do like that original, but the whole thing with those new Spider-Man movies is like, oh, it takes what people say is that like by the third movie he actually is Spider-Man. I'm like,
Right.
if I have to watch 3 movies for the title character to actually be the title character, like isn't the whole franchise kind of pointless? But
Yep.
you know,
That's because they were making those movies with the whole MCU in mind rather than the individual characters. When Jack and Steve made Spider-Man, they were just thinking about Spider-Man and what's best for Spider-Man. And what's best for Spider-Man is to establish who Spider-Man is. When they introduced Spider-Man, they introduced him in a Captain America movie. You know what I mean? Same with Black Panther. So they were thinking about the grand picture and not the individual characters.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Even like I remember watching, Captain America: Civil War, and I actually think that's like, it's a fun movie to watch. And I even if it like ruins like the character, like I did like the dynamic between Spider-Man and Iron Man. Like I think it's fun, but it's not like what the character needed in the long term.
Right.
But it's like, hey, it's fun to watch for like those 2 movies like Civil War and Homecoming.
MCU's been doing that a lot. They're not thinking about what's good in the long term. Like that 5 years later blip. That wasn't a good idea. They should have closed it with the Infinity Gauntlet. They could have controlled time and everything as he snapped. That would have been it to everybody's perspective.
Yeah.
The 5 year blip is I don't know. It's just unnecessary because had they made a movie about it, how do they talk about it? You know what I mean?
I think it gets. I wouldn't know because I have no idea what goes on post Endgame MCU. you'd have to talk to like geeks and gamers and the people who watch and review that stuff, because like that's not me. But anyways, yeah, it's like this is the thing is that like I talk about the Rippaverse because like precisely for the reason why I have a podcast covering the Rippaverse and not the MCU is because I've got no interest in like sitting down and watching, hours of Disney Plus shows and, going to the movies and watching these movies and trying to keep up with this, nonsense. But anyways, I think we've, been going on for about an hour and 40 minutes.
I got to get going.
This kind of turned into like this was a nice like variety stream. So I hope you guys enjoy this, but I'm going to end it here. Thank you for being a guest, John. I really appreciate it. But we're gonna end this right now.
Well, cool. Can I just chill?
Yeah, chill away, my friend.
Road Tales Christmas special live on Kickstarter right now, and I also have it live on Fund My Comics. So whatever one you want, both have hit their funding goals. I just put in the print order last night, so the campaign is still live. The campaign is active on Kickstarter, and I'm getting the books printed already. It's done.
Okay. Fantastic. I think I gotta. Is that a new book?
Yes, it's my newest book. I'm going to show you proof. Here is my proof copy. King Fu Christmas special. So it exists. Here it is. And I got the proof mailed to me last week. I said the thumbs up, and now it's being printed. So
definitely got to check that out. But anyway, so yeah, check that out.
Back it on Fund My Comic. Back it on Kickstarter, and also the Crisis on Independent Earths is something I'm working on. Have you heard about this?
No, I saw that. So like I know this was like back in the 80s or so there was a Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, geez, you're a youngin. Yeah, in DC Comics they did the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they took all of their universes, they mushed them into one universe. It was supposed to streamline and make DC easier. It actually did the exact opposite. So I was joking around saying we should get all of us independent guys. And I joked around and I called it the Crisis on Independent Earths. And then I thought about it for a while. I said, that would be a fun project. So I wrote a script that minimally, it doesn't like I asked Eric July if he wanted to participate, and he says he doesn't want to do crossovers. But it's not a crossover. And then I asked Paul Thayer from Project Analysis, and he says, I don't like multiverse. It's not a multiverse. But, it looks like both from the outside. So I have an event set up. All universes are going to get destroyed. Anybody who wants to participate, they're going to do 3 to 5 pages, and then they're going to get sucked into the grand scheme, and then the grand scheme is going to solve all the problems, hopefully. I don't want to spoil the ending. And when it goes back, you can make it part of your continuity, or you can choose to ignore it. But what it really is it's a catalog for everybody. So I got like 36 people participating. That's like 100 pages. So we're going to have this great 100-page catalog with Wolf and Batsy, with Heroic Tales, with Bad Dog Madigan, with Kneel Before Doomface. All of these great properties, drawn by those guys, so it's no bait and switch. And then I'm going to sell it at conventions. They're going to sell it at conventions, and people are going to buy a complete book. And the last page, they're going to be like, did you like Joker the Fool? We'll get Joker the Fool stuff over here. But Chuck Dixon's going to be he's going to be doing 2 stories in it. Joe Bennett's going to be drawing one of Chuck Dixon's stories. We got some big wigs. Josh Howard is doing T-Bird and Throttle. We got a lot of real established guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we might have a non-comic book guy. He's going to let me know Monday if he wants to participate.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in doing something like that. I just, I'd have to come up with something. But
it's a lot of fun, and the Rippaverse people were like, yeah, we don't want to do crossovers with other people, which I totally understand. But they're like, but this sounds awesome, man, and we'll help you. So there you go.
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing to come out on Rip Ascend, because I think that would actually be really cool.
I gotta say, Ripper guys have been nothing but helpful.
That's the thing. Is that
the Ripperverse are the most positive comic book fans ever.
Yeah. Hey, this thing, like I, try to be, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice, and it doesn't, and the thing is that like
the things that I didn't like, they didn't fight with me, and they were like, hey, I'm gonna buy you comic books, and I was like, don't buy me comics, I can buy my own comics, but they were nice. They didn't fight. Other people, when I didn't like something, they made fun of me, but not the Ripper guys. They tried to kill me with kindness, and that works.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is that you said hey, like you don't like Isom because of the name and Yaira, and like I understand your criticisms. I just I disagree with them.
Right,
And,
right, right.
But hey, that's like. But so I've read your books. I love Heroic Tales, and I definitely
Thank
got to
you.
get in on the Christmas special. Yeah, no, and like hey, I've been over to your place because like I think like this community is better like when like we get along, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
I've seen so much of the
Well,
animosity. And
that's the
it
whole
just
point of this crisis project is for us all to get along and work together and make something. Yeah, the
Okay,
people, your friends. This guy's been in my house.
yeah. Yeah, it was back when I was living in New York, and I wanted to do that because I thought like, hey, that'd be a cool thing to do, and it was. I'm really appreciative. But anyways, I'm gonna end it there. So hopefully,
I gotta
guys,
go too.
yeah. So you guys have a good rest of the weekend. Enjoy everything, but we are ending it.